You're completely useless at this. Those words came from my own son, my 42-year-old successful lawyer son, Michael, screaming at me in front of 12 family members on Thanksgiving Day, all because I was changing his 91-year-old grandmother's oxygen tank, something I'd done every single day for 18 months, something he'd never once helped with. But here's what Michael didn't expect. Instead of yelling back, instead of begging for respect, I just smiled. A calm, cold smile that made him step back. "I understand perfectly," I said quietly. He stormed out, thinking he'd won, thinking the old man would just take it. He was wrong. If you've ever been called useless by someone you've sacrificed everything for, you need to hear what happened next. Because what I did with our $2.1 million family house changed everything forever. And Michael? He had absolutely no idea what was coming. Let me tell you about the 18 months leading up to that moment. 18 months that Michael conveniently forgot when he called me useless. It started in May 2023. Grandma Dot, my 91-year-old mother, had been living independently until a fall left her with a broken hip and the beginning stages of dementia. The hospital discharge planner gave us two options: a nursing home at $8,200 a month or home care. Michael's response? "Dad, just put her somewhere. You're retired anyway." I chose differently. I converted our family room into a medical suite. Hospital bed, $312 monthly rental. Oxygen concentrator, $847. Physical therapy equipment, $493. Medication organizers, shower chair, walker, wheelchair ramp for the front steps. Total monthly medical costs, $2,154. Every penny came from my teacher's pension of $3,247 monthly. Michael's contribution? Zero, despite his $450,000 annual salary at Thompson and Associates law firm. But it wasn't just about money. It was about showing up. 6 a.m. Wake up, check Grandma Dot's blood pressure, give her morning medications. 11 different prescriptions, 4 times daily. I kept a notebook. Every pill, every meal, every doctor's appointment. 847 entries over 3 years. 7 a.m. Help her shower, get dressed, move to her recliner. By the window where she could watch the birds. 9 a.m. Breakfast, then physical therapy exercises. The hospital taught me. Leg lifts, arm stretches, memory games to slow the dementia. Noon, lunch and her favorite activity reading. I'd read her the newspaper, old family letters, sometimes her favorite book from when she was a librarian, Pride and Prejudice. We must have read it 12 times. 2 p.m., afternoon medications, then maybe a short walk around the block if she was having a good day. 4 p.m., her lucid moments usually came around this time. "Bobby," she'd say. She always called me Bobby. "You're such a good boy. Don't let anyone tell you different." 6 p.m., dinner, evening medications, then we'd watch the news together. She'd comment on the stories, sometimes forgetting she'd already told me the same thing an hour earlier. 9 p.m., help her to bed, set up the overnight monitoring system, check that everything was locked up. This was my life, every single day. No vacations, no breaks, no complaining. Michael's involvement? Let me be specific. He visited exactly 3 times in 2024. August 14th was the last time, and that was only because his wife Sarah made him stop by for his grandmother's 91st birthday. He stayed 47 minutes, I know because I noted it in my caregiver journal. During that visit, he spent 30 minutes on his phone dealing with some case about corporate mergers. When Grandma Dot asked him about his children, her great-grandchildren, he gave one-word answers while scrolling through emails. "How's little Emma doing in school?" she asked. "Fine," he said, not looking up. "And Tommy? Is he still playing soccer?" "Yeah." I watched her face fall. This brilliant woman who'd spent 43 years as a head librarian, who'd read to hundreds of children, who'd helped shape young minds, reduced to competing with an iPhone for her own grandson's attention. When it was time for her afternoon medications, Michael stood up. "Dad handles all that stuff," he told Sarah. "I don't know anything about her pills." 18 months of daily care, and he didn't know his grandmother took insulin twice a day. But here's what really showed me who my son had become. Dr. James Anderson, our family physician, scheduled appointments every 6 weeks to monitor Grandma Dot's condition. 47 appointments total. I attended every single one. Took notes, asked questions, made sure I understood every detail of her care. Michael attended zero. Zero appointments, zero conversations with her doctor, zero interest in her medical decisions. Yet somehow, when she had a bad week, in October the dementia was getting worse, she'd gotten confused and wandered outside in her nightgown. Michael suddenly became an expert. "This is getting dangerous, Dad," he told me over the phone. "You're in over your head. She needs professional care." Professional care. Like I hadn't been providing professional level care for 18 months. Like I hadn't learned to manage diabetes, blood pressure medications, physical therapy, and dementia symptoms. Like I hadn't given up every aspect of my retirement to make sure his grandmother lived with dignity and love. "I've been handling it fine," I said. "Fine?" His voice got sharp. "Dad, you're 70. You can't do this forever. I'm 68, by the way." But Michael had stopped paying attention to details about his family years ago. "We'll manage," I said. "No, we won't. I've already contacted some places. Sunrise Manor has an opening. $8,000 a month, but it's close by and they specialize in dementia care." That's when I realized something that chilled me. He'd been planning this, behind my back, without consulting me, without consulting the woman whose life he was making decisions about. "Did you discuss this with your grandmother?" I asked. Long pause. "Dad, she's not capable of making these decisions anymore." But she was. During her lucid moments, Grandma Dot was sharp as ever. She'd ask about the news, remember stories from 50 years ago, give me advice about dealing with difficult people. She was still in there, fighting to stay present. Michael had already written her off. The nursing home director's phone call changed everything. The call came on November 28th, 3 days after Thanksgiving. I was helping Grandma Dot with her lunch when my phone rang. "Mr. Miller, this is Janet Peterson from Sunrise Manor. I have some paperwork here with your signature for your mother's admission, but I wanted to confirm the move-in date." I nearly dropped the phone. "I'm sorry, what paperwork?" "The application for Dorothy Miller, submitted by Michael Miller on November 20th. It shows your signature as primary caregiver and financial responsible party." My hands started shaking. "Can you describe this signature?" "Well, let me see, Robert Miller, in blue ink, dated November 20th. November 20th. The day I'd driven 2 hours to Albany for Grandma Dot's specialist appointment. The day Michael had offered to check on things at the house while we were gone. "Ma'am, I need to see that paperwork immediately." "Of course. I'll fax it right over." 20 minutes later, I was staring at a document that made my blood run cold. My forged signature on admission paperwork. Financial commitment forms. Medical authorization transfers. 8 pages of documents that would strip me of all legal authority over my mother's care. The monthly cost, $8,200. The initial deposit, $16,400. Money that would have to come from selling the house, our family home where Grandma Dot had lived for 37 years. I called Michael immediately. "We need to talk," I said when he picked up. "Dad, I'm in a meeting." "Can this wait?" "No, it can't wait. I just got a call from Sunrise Manor about paperwork you submitted." Silence. Then, "Look, I was going to discuss it with you." "Discuss forging my signature?" "I didn't forge anything. I move things along. This is happening whether you like it or not, whether I liked it or not. My own son talking to me like I was an obstacle to remove. Michael, that's fraud. You committed fraud." "Oh, please." His voice turned condescending. "It's a technicality. You would have signed it anyway once you stopped being stubborn about this." Stubborn? 18 months of devoted care, and I was being stubborn. "I'm withdrawing the application," I said. "No, you're not." His tone shifted, hard, final. "Dad, I've been patient with this whole situation, but it's over. She's going to Sunrise Manor on December 15th, and that's final. She's my mother, and she's my grandmother, and I'm not watching you kill yourself trying to play nurse. You're 70 years old. I'm 68. Whatever, you're too old for this. Your amateur hour caregiving is actually making her worse. Amateur hour, like learning CPR hadn't been professional. Like managing 11 different medications 4 times a day hadn't been professional. Like coordinating with doctors, physical therapists, and home health aides hadn't been professional. Michael, your grandmother is happy here. This is her home. No, Dad, this is your guilt trip. You think playing martyr makes you some kind of saint? But all you're doing is being selfish. Selfish. I was being selfish. How exactly am I being selfish? You're keeping her here because it makes you feel better about Mom's death. But guess what? Mom's been dead for 5 years, and your guilt doesn't trump what's best for Grandma. He'd crossed the line, bringing up my wife, his mother, who died of cancer in 2019, suggesting that caring for his grandmother was some kind of psychological dysfunction. Don't you dare. I dare, Dad. I absolutely dare. Because someone in this family needs to make adult decisions, and clearly it's not going to be you. Adult decisions. From the man who hadn't attended a single doctor's appointment. What's the real reason, Michael? What do you mean? Why the rush? Why forge documents? Why force this through without discussion? Long pause. Too long. There's no hidden agenda, if that's what you're implying. Then why can't this wait until after the holidays? Why the urgency? Another pause. Because I'm tired of watching you destroy yourself over this. But I heard something in his voice, something that made me push harder. Michael, are you having financial problems? What? No, of course not. Because $8,000 a month is a lot of money, even for a successful lawyer. Money isn't the issue here. Then what is? Help me understand why you're in such a hurry to move your grandmother out of the home she's lived in for 37 years. Silence stretched between us. I could hear voices in the background, his office probably, his important lawyer world where elderly caregiving was just an inconvenience to solve. You want the truth? His voice dropped low, dangerous. Fine. Here's the truth. I need that house equity now, not when you're both dead. There it was, the real reason. I'm up for senior partner at Thompson & Associates. The buy-in is $700,000. I need that money now, not in 5 years when this whole nursing home thing has bled us dry. $700,000. His grandmother's dignity was worth $700,000 to him. So this isn't about her care at all. Don't be naive, Dad. This is about securing the family's financial future. Your pension barely covers your own expenses, let alone hers. I'm the one with the income potential. I'm the one building wealth for the next generation. The next generation, his children, who'd visited their great-grandmother twice in 18 months. Michael, that house isn't yours to sell. Actually, Dad, you might want to check the deed on that. What Michael said next crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Actually, Dad, you might want to check the deed on that. Those words hit me like ice water. What are you talking about? When Mom was dying, remember? You were so overwhelmed with her care, the medical bills, all that emotional stuff. I helped you restructure some assets for tax purposes. My heart started pounding. Michael, what did you do? I didn't do anything illegal, if that's what you're worried about. But let's just say that legally speaking, you have less control over that property than you think you do. I hung up and ran to my filing cabinet, pulled out the deed documents from 2019. The papers Michael had helped me organize while my wife was dying of cancer. There it was, joint ownership. Robert Miller and Michael Miller, 50-50. He'd convinced me to add him to the deed for estate planning purposes. Said it would make things easier if something happened to me. I'd been so focused on my dying wife, so grateful for his help with paperwork, that I'd signed without really reading. My own son had been planning this for 5 years. I sat in my kitchen, staring at those documents, feeling something inside me break and rebuild at the same time. The kitchen where my wife had taught our children to cook, where we'd helped Michael with homework, where we'd celebrated his law school graduation, where he'd just threatened to steal his dying grandmother's home. I made 3 phone calls that would destroy his world. First call, Patricia Williams, our home health aide who came 3 days a week. Patricia, I need you to increase your schedule. Full-time care starting Monday, whatever the cost. Mr. Miller, are you sure? That's expensive. I'm sure. And Patricia, if anyone asks, you're to say that Mrs. Dorothy Miller is receiving excellent care and specifically requested to remain in her home. Second call, Dr. James Anderson. Doctor, I need documentation of my mother's current condition and my caregiving capabilities. Official documentation. Of course, Bob. Is everything all right? I need it to show that she's thriving under home care and that moving her would be detrimental to her health. I can certainly provide that. Bob, you've been exemplary in her care, better than most professional facilities I've seen. Third call, Sarah Johnson, my neighbor of 15 years. Sarah, I need a favor. A big one. That evening I did something I hadn't done since my wife's funeral. I went into our bedroom and pulled out her jewelry box. At the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, was something I'd forgotten about. My mother's diary from 1962. I'd found it when cleaning out her apartment years ago, but never really read it. That night I read every page. Entry after entry about her dreams. Not for herself. She'd already lived her life, but for the future. For education. For helping children who couldn't afford college. August 15th, 1962. Saved another $25 this month. My education fund is growing. Someday I want to help children go to college who otherwise couldn't. That's real wealth, not money in the bank, but knowledge in young minds. September 3rd, 1962. Bobby started school today. So proud. Education is everything. It's the one thing no one can take away from you. I want to help other children have that same chance. Page after page, year after year. My mother's dream to create scholarships for underprivileged children. I closed the diary and made a decision that felt like the first honest choice I'd made in years. I was going to sell the house, but not for Michael's law firm partnership. The next morning, I called Janet Peterson at Sunrise Manor back. Miss? Peterson, I'm withdrawing my mother's application. Of course, Mr. Miller, may I ask if you found alternative arrangements? Yes, the best possible arrangement. She's staying home. I'm glad to hear that. Between you and me, family care is often superior to institutional care when it's done right. And from everything I've heard, you're doing it right. After I hung up, I called Rebecca Thompson from Thompson Real Estate, the same agency that had sold us this house in 1987 for $180,000. Rebecca, I want to sell. Fast sale? Cash preferred. Bob, are you sure? The market's hot right now. Your neighborhood, houses are going for over $2 million. But if you need to move quickly. I need to move very quickly. How fast can we close? With the right buyer? 2 weeks. Do it. I didn't tell Michael. I didn't tell anyone except Patricia Williams and Dr. Anderson, who both understood that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is make the hard choice before someone else makes it for you. But the house sale was just the beginning. What I was planning would teach Michael that there are some things more valuable than money, and some lessons that cost exactly $2.1 million to learn. The listing went live on December 2nd, 2024. Michael had no idea what was coming. The house sold in 36 hours. Not to some random family looking for a suburban dream home, to Sunrise Manor Assisted Living Corporation. They wanted to expand their facility and had been eyeing properties in our neighborhood for months. The irony was perfect. The nursing home Michael wanted to force his grandmother into had just bought her house out from under him. Sale price, $2,127,000. $53,000 over asking price because 3 parties got into a bidding war. Closing date, December 15th, 2024. The exact same day, Michael had scheduled Grandma Dot's forced admission to Sunrise Manor. I signed the papers at Miller and Associates Law Office. A different Miller, no relation, at 2:30 p.m. on a cold Tuesday afternoon. The wire transfer hit my account at 4:15 p.m., $2.1 million. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. Michael discovered what I'd done at 8:15 a.m. on December 18th, when he showed up at the house with moving boxes and 2 men from a medical transport service. Dad, I'm here to help Grandma transition to... He stopped mid-sentence when he saw the sold sign in our front yard. Good morning, Michael. I was sitting on the front porch with my coffee watching the sunrise. Perfectly calm. Beautiful morning, isn't it? His face went white. What did you do? I sold the house. You can't do that. I'm on the deed. Actually, you were on the deed. Past tense. I had a very interesting conversation with a real estate attorney about joint ownership laws in New York State. This was true. Turns out that when joint owners disagree about selling, either party can force a partition sale through the courts. But there's a faster way. Buyout agreements. I bought out your 50% interest, I said calmly. Check your bank account. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. There's $50,000 here. $53,500 to be exact. That's your half of the original purchase price from 1987, plus interest calculated at the average savings account rate over 37 years. Very fair, mathematically speaking. His face turned red. 50,000? This house is worth over 2 million. Was worth 2 million. Now it's worth whatever the new owners paid for it. You can't do this. I'll sue you. I sip my coffee. Michael, you're a lawyer. You know exactly how joint ownership works. You also know that I have documentation of your forged signature on nursing home paperwork, which is a felony, by the way. The medical transport guys were standing there awkwardly, not sure what to do with their empty gurney. You can go, I told them. There's been a change of plans. Michael watched them leave, then turned back to me with pure fury. Where are you going to live? Where is she going to live? To already arranged. Sunrise Manor has beautiful independent living apartments for family members who want to stay close to their loved ones in assisted living. I've rented a one-bedroom for $2,800 a month. You're putting her in the nursing home anyway? Not exactly. I stood up, brushed off my pants. Michael, there's a difference between choosing professional care and being forced into it. Your grandmother and I had a long conversation yesterday during one of her Lucero periods. She understands that the house was becoming too much for me to maintain while providing her care. She also understands that you were planning to force her out anyway. This was true. Grandma Dot's reaction when I explained the situation had been heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time. Bobby, she'd said, taking my hand with surprising strength, that boy forgot who raised him. But you haven't forgotten who raised you. Do what you need to do. She agreed? Michael's voice cracked slightly. She agreed that moving to assisted living, with me nearby and independent living, was better than being forced out by her grandson who forged legal documents. Dad, you don't understand. I need that money. The partnership, oh, I understand perfectly. $700,000 for your buy-in at Thompson and Associates. Your grandmother's dignity for your professional advancement. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Michael? Explain to me how forcing a 91-year-old woman with dementia out of her home so you can advance your career is actually an act of love. He couldn't answer that. Where's the money? He asked finally. What money? The $2 million from the sale. Oh, that money. I smiled. That's been allocated. Allocated to what? Well, after paying off the remaining mortgage $12,000 and covering moving costs and setting aside funds for your grandmother's care for the next several years, there's still quite a bit left. How much is quite a bit? About $1.8 million. His eyes lit up. Okay, so we can still make this work. If you loan me the $700,000 for the partnership. Michael? My voice went cold. You still don't get it, do you? Get what? You called me useless. You forged my signature. You tried to steal your grandmother's home. You prioritized your career advancement over her dignity. And now you want me to loan you money? Dad, I'm your son. Yes, you are. And that makes this so much worse. I walked toward my Honda Civic, the same 15-year-old car I'd been driving while he cruised around in his $89,000 BMW X7. Where are you going? He called after me. To my lawyer. I have some documents to prepare. What documents? I turned back one more time. Michael, you wanted to make adult decisions about the family's finances? Congratulations. You just learned what adult consequences look like. I drove away, leaving him standing in the driveway of the house that no longer belonged to either of us. But Michael's real education was just beginning. What he didn't know was that his law firm colleagues were about to discover exactly what kind of son Robert Miller had raised, and that discovery would happen in the most public way possible. Michael stormed into my new apartment at Sunrise Manor 3 days later. I was helping Grandma Dot settle into her assisted living suite when he burst through my door without knocking. We need to talk. Now. Sarah Johnson, my neighbor who was visiting, looked startled. Should I leave? No, stay, I said calmly. This won't take long. Michael's face was flushed, his expensive suit wrinkled. Dad, I've been thinking about this whole situation, and I'm prepared to make you a deal. What kind of deal? I'll drop the legal challenge to the house sale. In exchange, you loan me the $700,000 for the partnership. Consider it an investment in the family's future. I continued organizing Grandma Dot's medications. What legal challenge? I'm filing papers tomorrow morning. claiming you were under duress when you sold, claiming undue influence, maybe even diminished capacity. Sarah gasped. Michael Miller, are you threatening your own father? This doesn't concern you, Mrs. Johnson, I looked up from the pill organizer. Actually, it does concern her. Sarah, would you say I've shown any signs of diminished capacity over the past few months? Diminished capacity? Bob, you've been the most organized, competent caregiver I've ever seen. You keep better medical records than most hospitals. Michael's jaw tightened. A neighbor's opinion isn't going to hold up in court. What about Doctor Anderson's opinion? I asked quietly. What about it? Yesterday he gave me a complete mental competency evaluation, cognitive function test, memory assessment, decision-making capacity analysis. I scored 97%. That doesn't matter. The point is that you're threatening to have your father declared mentally incompetent because he won't give you money for a business deal. It's not just a business deal. It's my career. Your career that you built by neglecting your family responsibilities. Michael stepped closer, his voice rising. I didn't neglect anything. I've been working my ass off to provide for my family. When was the last time you visited your grandmother before I sold the house? That's not August 14th, 4 months ago, for 47 minutes. I have it documented. I don't have time for... How many doctor's appointments have you attended in the past 18 months? Dad, I'm busy. 0. The answer is 0. Sarah was scribbling notes. Bob, do you mind if I share this conversation with my husband? He's on the Sunrise Manor Board of Directors. Michael whirled around. You're taking notes? Someone should document this behavior. What behavior? I stood up slowly. Michael, you've been in my apartment for 5 minutes. In that time, you've threatened legal action, demanded money, suggested I'm mentally incompetent, and raised your voice at a guest. Do you see the pattern? The pattern is that you're being unreasonable. The pattern is that you solve problems by intimidating people. I'm not intimidating anyone. You just threatened to have me declared mentally incompetent if I don't loan you $700,000. Sarah cleared her throat. Michael, I've known your father for 15 years. He taught my daughter in high school. He's one of the most thoughtful, intelligent men I know. What you're suggesting is shameful. This is a family matter. Family matters don't usually involve fraud and extortion, she replied coolly. Michael's face went pale. Fraud? Extortion? I pulled out a folder from my desk drawer. Forged signatures on legal documents, threats of false mental incompetency claims, demands for money under duress. What would you call it, counselor? Dad, you don't understand the pressure I'm under. The partnership deadline is January 15th. If I don't have the buy-in money, you'll remain a senior associate instead of a junior partner. You'll still make $450,000 a year. You'll still live in your $800,000 house. You'll still drive your BMW. It's not about the money. Then what is it about? Long pause. He looked around the small apartment, then at his grandmother's assisted living suite, visible through the connecting door. It's about respect, he said finally. It's about being taken seriously. Respect isn't bought, Michael. It's earned. Easy for you to say. You never had to prove yourself in a competitive environment. 35 years of teaching wasn't competitive? Teaching high school isn't the same as corporate law. Sarah stood up. I think I've heard enough. Bob, if you need any character witnesses for anything, you know where to find me. After she left, Michael and I stared at each other across the small living room. This isn't over, he said finally. No, I agreed. It's not. Michael's next move would backfire spectacularly. 2 days before Christmas, Michael made his biggest mistake yet. He sent an email to his law firm partners. All of them, including Tom Wilson, the managing partner, including David Brown, the ethics committee chair, including every senior associate and junior partner at Thompson & Associates. The subject line read, Family Emergency, Request for Understanding. I know this because Tom Wilson's wife, Jennifer, volunteers at the same community center where I'd been helping with literacy programs for the past 3 years. Jennifer called me the morning the email went out. Bob, I think you need to know what your son is saying about you. She read me the email word for word. Colleagues, I'm writing to inform you of a difficult family situation that may affect my availability over the next few weeks. My 68-year-old father has recently exhibited signs of diminished mental capacity and has made several concerning financial decisions, including the sale of valuable family property without proper consultation. He is currently the primary caregiver for my 91-year-old grandmother who suffers from dementia. Despite our family's attempts to arrange professional care, my father has refused all assistance and has become increasingly hostile to reasonable suggestions. I may need to pursue legal guardianship to protect both my father and grandmother from further poor decision-making. I appreciate your understanding during this difficult time. Michael Miller. Jennifer's voice was tight with anger. Bob, Tom showed this to me because he was concerned. But then he started asking questions. What kind of questions? Like, if your father is having mental problems, why haven't you mentioned this family crisis before? And why would someone with diminished capacity be able to successfully navigate a complex real estate transaction? And if you're so concerned about your grandmother, why haven't you visited her at Sunrise Manor? It turned out that Tom Wilson had already been hearing things around town. Dr. Anderson played golf with several lawyers, including Tom. Sarah Johnson's husband served on the Sunrise Manor board with Tom's brother. Patricia Williams, our home health aide, had 3 other clients whose families were prominent in Westchester County legal circles. Small towns have long memories and short distances between the truth and the people who need to hear it. Tom called Dr. Anderson directly, Jennifer continued, asked him confidentially about your mental state. Dr. Anderson was, let's say, he was not pleased with Michael's characterization. What Michael didn't know was already spreading through town like wildfire. Dr. Anderson had been telling colleagues about my exceptional caregiving for months. Bob Miller is providing better care than 90% of professional facilities I work with, he told the medical staff at Westchester General. Meticulous records, perfect medication compliance, excellent patient advocacy. Patricia Williams had been praising my dedication to her other clients' families. In 15 years of home health care, I've never seen a family member so committed to learning proper medical care, she'd told the Davidson family last month. He took CPR classes, learned physical therapy techniques, even studied nutrition for dementia patients. The community center volunteers had been amazed by my continued commitment, despite caring for Grandma Dot. Bob Miller never missed a literacy session, the director had mentioned to several board members. Even when his mother was having bad days, he'd arrange professional care just so he could keep his commitment to the children. But Michael knew none of this. In his world of corporate law and professional networking, he'd lost touch with the community, where his family had lived for 37 years. The Westchester County Bar Association Holiday Mixer was scheduled for December 23rd. Michael planned to attend, hoping to do damage control with his colleagues about the family situation. What he didn't expect was that half the attendees had already heard the real story. Tom Wilson pulled me aside at the grocery store on December 22nd. Bob, I owe you an apology on behalf of our firm. You don't need to apologize for Michael's choices. Actually, I do, because we're considering him for senior partner, and character matters in that decision. Tom, whatever issues Michael and I have, they shouldn't affect his career. Bob, he accused his own father of mental incompetence to avoid professional embarrassment about a business loan. That's not a family issue. That's a character issue. The next morning, the Westchester County Journal ran a small item in their community section. Local retired teacher creates education initiative. Robert Miller, retired Westchester High history teacher, has established a substantial education fund to provide college scholarships for underprivileged students. Miller, who recently moved to Sunrise Manor to be closer to his mother's assisted living care, says the fund represents a lifelong dream of his late mother, Dorothy Miller, a former librarian. She always believed education was the one gift that could never be taken away, Miller said. The fund is expected to provide full scholarships for multiple students annually. The article included a photo of me and Grandma Dot in her new assisted living suite, both of us smiling. Michael found out about the article at the Bar Association mixer. What happened next would change everything. The trust document I was preparing would shock everyone. But first, I needed to gather every piece of evidence that told the real story. I spent the week between Christmas and New Year's organizing what I privately called my moral accounting. 3 years of documentation that painted a very clear picture of who had actually been caring for Dorothy Miller. Box 1. Medical records. Every doctor's appointment, every prescription, every insurance claim, 47 medical visits total. Attended by Robert Miller, 47. Attended by Michael Miller, 0. Box 2, financial records. Every payment for medical equipment, medications, home modifications, professional care. Total paid by Robert Miller from teacher's pension, $67,342 over 18 months. Total contributed by Michael Miller, despite $450,000 annual salary, $0. Box 3, daily care logs. 847 entries in my caregiver notebook. Sample entry from November 15th. 6 a.m. blood pressure 140 over 85. Gave morning meds. 9 a.m. physical therapy exercises. Walk to mailbox. 2 p.m. lucid period. Discussed old students from library. 6 p.m. watched news. She remembered story about local election. Good day overall. Box 4, communication records. Phone logs showing Michael's contact with family. January through August, 14 phone calls, average length 4 minutes. September through November, 6 phone calls, all related to nursing home placement. But the most powerful evidence came from an unexpected source. Grandma Dot was having one of her increasingly rare lucid periods on December 30th, when I mentioned that I was meeting with lawyers about establishing the education fund. "Bobby," she said, gripping my hand with surprising strength, "I need to tell you something while my mind is clear." "What is it, Mom?" "I've been more aware than people think. During the bad times, I can't speak right or remember things. But I hear everything. I see everything." She looked directly at me with the sharp intelligence that had made her such a beloved librarian for 43 years. "Michael came here in October, when you were at the grocery store. He didn't think I'd remember." My heart stopped. "What did he say?" "He asked me about my will. About whether I'd changed anything recently. When I didn't answer fast enough, you know how hard it is for me to find words. Sometimes he got impatient." "What did he do?" "He said, Grandma, do you understand that Dad can't take care of you much longer? Do you want him to have a heart attack trying to lift you? He made it sound like caring for me was killing you." I felt sick. "Mom, I'm fine. Caring for you isn't killing me." "I know that, sweetheart." But then he said something that made me very sad. "What?" He said, "If you really love Dad, you'll tell him you want to go to a nice facility. That way he won't feel guilty when we sell the house. He was trying to get me to convince you to give up." The manipulation was even worse than I'd thought. He'd been working on both of us, trying to turn us against each other. "There's more," she continued. "In November, when he came for Thanksgiving dinner preparation, he spent an hour going through your desk, looking at papers. I watched from my chair. He took pictures of documents with his phone." "What documents?" "I don't know exactly. But he was very interested in anything with both your names on it. That explained how he'd known about the joint ownership on the deed. He'd been planning this for months." "Mom, why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because I knew you'd handle it when you were ready. You're like your father that way. Quiet, but strong. You don't react, you respond." That afternoon, I called Patricia Williams and asked her to document everything she'd observed about Michael's behavior during his rare visits. Her written statement was devastating. In 18 months of providing care for Mrs. Dorothy Miller, I observed Michael Miller visit approximately 6 times. During these visits, he typically spent less than 30 minutes with his grandmother, frequently interrupted by phone calls. On 2 occasions, I observed him becoming impatient when Mrs. Miller had difficulty communicating due to her dementia. On November 20th, 2024, I observed Mr. Michael Miller searching through papers in Mr. Robert Miller's home office while Mr. Robert Miller was taking Mrs. Miller to a medical appointment. When questioned, Mr. Michael Miller stated he was looking for important documents. This behavior seemed inappropriate given that he wasn't authorized to access private papers. I also reached out to Dr. Anderson for a complete assessment of my caregiving. His letter was everything I'd hoped for. In my 32 years of geriatric practice, I have rarely seen family caregiving as comprehensive and professional as that provided by Robert Miller for his mother, Dorothy Miller. Mr. Miller has demonstrated exceptional competence in medication management, physical therapy assistance, nutrition planning, and emotional support. Mrs. Miller has thrived under his care in ways that would have been impossible in an institutional setting. Any suggestion that Mr. Miller is incapable of making sound decisions regarding his mother's care is not supported by medical evidence. The final piece came from an unexpected source, Grandma Dot's own words. During another lucid moment on January 2nd, I asked her if she'd be willing to make a video statement about her care preferences. Of course, Bobby. People should know the truth, in a clear, strong voice that reminded me of the librarian who'd once commanded rooms full of children. She said, "My name is Dorothy Miller. I'm 91 years old. I have dementia, but today my mind is clear. I want everyone to know that my son Bobby has taken beautiful care of me. He sacrificed his retirement, his comfort, and his savings to make sure I can live with dignity. My grandson Michael has visited me 6 times in 18 months. Bobby has been here every single day. If something happens to me, I want people to remember that love isn't what you say, it's what you do when no one is watching." The trust document I was preparing would honor that love in a way that would teach Michael the most important lesson of his life. The Thompson and Associates holiday party was held at the Westchester Country Club on December 22nd. Black tie event. 45 partners and their spouses. Clients worth millions of dollars. The kind of evening where reputations are made and careers are launched. Michael had been looking forward to this night for months. His chance to cement relationships before the partnership decision in January. What he didn't know was that I'd been invited. Tom Wilson had called me that morning. "Bob, I know this might seem unusual, but Jennifer and I would like you to attend tonight's party as our guest. There are some people who'd like to meet you." "Tom, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not sure that's appropriate given the situation with Michael." "Actually, Bob, that's exactly why it's appropriate." I arrived at 7:30 wearing the same navy suit I'd worn to my wife's funeral 5 years earlier. Nothing fancy, but clean and pressed. I felt underdressed until Jennifer Wilson introduced me to the other guests. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Bob Miller. You might have read about him in yesterday's County Journal. The newspaper article had been bigger than I'd expected. Front page of the local section with the headline, 'Retired Teacher's $2 million Gift Honors Mother's Legacy,' complete with the photo of me and Grandma Dot in her assisted living suite. Michael walked in at 8 o'clock, looking confident in his $1,500 tuxedo. He was halfway across the room, shaking hands and making small talk when he saw me. His face went white. "Dad? What are you doing here?" "Tom and Jennifer invited me. Lovely party." "You can't be here." "Why not?" Because this is my workplace." Tom Wilson appeared at my elbow. "Michael, good to see you. I was just telling your father about the pro bono education work our firm does. Fascinating to meet someone who's made such a substantial commitment to children's education." Michael's smile looked frozen. "Pro bono work?" "Your father's education trust. $2 million for college scholarships. Quite impressive." $2 million? Michael's voice cracked slightly. "That's right," said David Brown, the ethics committee chair, joining our group. Tom showed me the newspaper article. "Very moving story about honoring your grandmother's legacy." "My grandmother's legacy?" "The article mentions that Dorothy Miller was a librarian who always dreamed of helping children go to college." "Wonderful that you're carrying on her vision." I watched Michael realize that everyone assumed he was part of the education trust, that his colleagues believed he was contributing to this generous gift, instead of trying to steal the money for his partnership buy-in. "Actually," Michael started. "Bob was just telling us about his caregiving experience," interrupted Jennifer Wilson. 18 months of round-the-clock care. Dr. Anderson says it's the best family caregiving he's ever seen." "Dr. Anderson?" Michael looked confused. "Jim Anderson," Tom explained. "He's been telling everyone at the medical staff meetings about your father's exceptional dedication. Says most professional facilities could learn from his methods." The circle of conversation was growing. Partners, spouses, clients, all drawn to the story of the humble retired teacher who'd sacrificed everything for his mother and then donated millions to help other children. "Where do you live now, Mr. Miller?" asked Patricia Stevens, wife of a senior partner. "I moved to Sunrise Manor to be close to my mother's assisted living care. Small apartment, but it meets our needs. How wonderful that you can still be involved in her daily care. It's important to me. Family should take care of family." Michael was standing there like a statue, watching his colleagues heap praise on his father while knowing the full truth, that he'd tried to force his grandmother into a nursing home, steal the house proceeds, and have his father declared mentally incompetent. Then Dr. Anderson arrived. "Bob, so good to see you here." Dr. Anderson was a member of the country club, invited as Tom Wilson's guest. "How's Dorothy doing with the transition?" "She's adjusting well. Having professional staff available while still maintaining some independence has been perfect for her." That's exactly what I told Tom. The way you managed her transition from home care to assisted living was textbook perfect, gradual, respectful, with her input at every step. Michael found his voice. "Wait, she had input?" Dr. Anderson looked surprised. "Of course. Your grandmother may have dementia, but during her lucid periods, she's quite clear about her preferences. She told me herself that moving to Sunrise Manor was her choice once she realized the house was becoming too much for your father to maintain alone." "She said that?" "Multiple times. Very concerned about your father's well-being. Said she didn't want to be a burden." The irony was perfect. Grandma Dot had been worried about being a burden to me, while Michael had called me a burden to her. "Michael," Tom Wilson said carefully, "your father mentioned that you've been very supportive during this difficult transition." Michael's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Actually," I said quietly, "Michael has had some concerns about my decisions." "Which is natural. It's hard to watch a parent get older." "What kind of concerns?" asked David Brown. This was the moment. The choice between protecting my son's reputation and telling the truth. Michael looked at me with desperate eyes. For a split second, I saw the little boy who used to cry when other kids called him stupid. The teenager who'd worked so hard to get into law school. The son who'd once made me proud. Then I remembered his voice on the phone. "Your amateur hour caregiving is actually making her worse." Michael felt that professional care would be better than what I could provide at home. "Well, that turned out to be a reasonable compromise," said Patricia Stevens. "Home care transitioning to assisted living with family nearby. Best of both worlds." "Yes," I agreed. Michael helped me realize that sometimes you have to let go of your pride and do what's truly best for the person you love. The conversation continued around us, but Michael was no longer participating. He stood there in his expensive tuxedo, watching his father receive praise for the very sacrifice Michael had mocked. At 9:15, Tom Wilson tapped his champagne glass for attention. "Before we wrap up this lovely evening, I want to recognize someone special. We have with us tonight Bob Miller, who recently made headlines for his incredible generosity. Bob, would you mind telling everyone about the Dorothy Miller Education Trust?" 45 people turned to look at me. The room went quiet. The trust was inspired by my mother's lifelong dream to help children who couldn't otherwise afford college. She was a librarian for 43 years and believed that education was the one gift that could never be taken away. Applause filled the room. The trust will provide full scholarships to local students who demonstrate both academic potential and financial need. We've already selected our first recipient, Maria Rodriguez, who will be studying nursing at SUNY Purchase. More applause. "But I want to be clear about something," I continued. "This wasn't my idea alone. My mother, even with dementia, had moments of absolute clarity about what mattered to her. During one of those moments, she told me, 'Bobby, true wealth isn't money in the bank, it's knowledge in young minds.' That's when I knew what to do with the proceeds from selling our family home." The room was completely silent now. Some people might say I was foolish to give away so much money. But I learned something important from caring for my mother these past 18 months. The most valuable things in life aren't the ones you can sell. As the applause died down, I looked directly at Michael. They're the ones you can't put a price on. The party ended shortly after. Michael left without saying goodbye to anyone, but his real education was just beginning. 3 days later, the partnership committee met to make their final decision. Michael wasn't selected. The partnership committee's decision came down on January 15th, exactly 3 weeks after the holiday party. Michael called me that evening. His voice was hollow. They passed me over. I was helping Grandma Dot with her evening medications when the phone rang. She was having a good day, alert and aware. "I'm sorry to hear that, Michael. Tom Wilson said they had concerns about my judgment, about my character. What did you tell them?" Long pause. "The truth. That I tried to force Grandma into a nursing home so I could access the house money for my partnership buy-in. That must have been difficult to admit." "Dad, I screwed up. I screwed up everything." For the first time in months, he sounded like the son I remembered. Not the entitled lawyer, but the uncertain boy who used to ask for help with his homework. Yes, you did. Is there any way... Can we fix this? I looked at Grandma Dot, who was listening to every word with sharp attention. Michael, do you know what your grandmother told me yesterday? What? She said, Bobby, I hope Michael learns that some mistakes cost more than money to fix. What does that mean? It means you can't buy back 18 months of missed visits. You can't purchase your way out of calling your father useless. You can't write a check to undo threatening to have me declared mentally incompetent. Silence on the line. But, I continued, your grandmother also said something else. She said, everyone deserves a chance to do better, but they have to earn it. How do I earn it? By showing up. Not with money or legal threats or business deals, just by showing up. What do you mean? Your grandmother has physical therapy 3 times a week. She has doctor's appointments every month. She gets lonely in the evenings and loves when people read to her. You want me to visit more. I want you to decide what kind of man you are. The kind who calls his father useless for caring for family, or the kind who helps care for family himself. 6 months later, Michael visits his grandmother twice a week. He reads to her from the same books she used to read to him as a child. He still hasn't made partner, but last month Maria Rodriguez sent us a thank you card from nursing school. Because of your trust, she wrote, I'll be able to help families just like yours. Some lessons cost $2.1 million to learn. The most important ones are worth every penny.